Welcome everyone to the new season of the Symbolon seminar 2026 and the 10th session. I think we can see me. Maybe I should switch a little bit if you can. Oh, like this. So welcome everyone again. We are very happy to be with you today with the new session number 10. And we have some changes. And before introducing our guest, I want to welcome notre chère Aïda to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I can introduce myself.
Yeah, please.
Hello, and thank you for the invitation, and happy to join. Yes, so I'm Aïda El Amrani, and so I have a background in theoretical computer science and philosophy. Over the years, I've worked on many different projects, generally around AI and the impacts of AI on society, the limits, also the capabilities and what they're capable of doing and what they're not capable of doing, how they compare to human beings. Also, so quite vast, but mostly contributing to projects and to shaping initiatives that are cross-disciplinary. So that's why also I'm happy to be here, because this is a cross-disciplinary initiative and I fully support this kind of initiatives, because with the acceleration of science also, that's something which is very much required today. And so, accessorily, I also have this group in Paris, I5, yes, where we're this community of researchers and professionals, and we gather regularly. We also have seminars, but sometimes it's also just informal discussions or debates. So it's a lively community with people coming from all sorts of disciplines, like we have more computer scientists, philosophers, but artists. So
yes,
very fun.
AI5 group. So we'll put the link on the chat. It's really an interesting group, and I come when I can.
Yeah.
So
we're happy.
So thank you, Aïda, for being with us. Aïda will help us and contribute with us in this seminar this year in animation and questioning. You are more than welcome. Thanks again for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And so Symbolon seminar is fits very well with what you said, because it's a cross-disciplinary seminar, and it's not about just philosophy. It's about everything. So it's destroying the frontier between different disciplines to better understand the AI era that we are in and the impacts of artificial intelligence in general. And for that, today we have a super guest, cher Raphaël Liogier.
Welcome.
Welcome. Bienvenue.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I will introduce you very quickly, but before I'm gonna just showcase the team that is behind this seminar. Eric, if you can come back to the slide before. So these are the people that are trying to do their best for this seminar. And so Eric Petit is senior researcher at Intel. He's based in Portland, so it's quite early for him. And Quentin is our super technical guy who help us with all this technical stuff, and Alex, our super artist, and myself. And now we have also with us Aïda, so you will see more maybe next time. And the next slide, cher Eric. So Raphaël.
Yes.
I introduce you, and you tell me if I'm saying wrong things. Okay.
I'm sure
you are French sociologist and philosopher, French, with a PhD in humanities from the University of Paul Cézanne, Aix-Marseille.
Yeah, but you can carry on. That's fine.
Okay.
Don't worry. That's fine.
You also have a degree in public law, political science, and philosophy, and you are professor at the Institute of Political Studies in Aix-en-Provence and at the UM6P in Morocco.
UM6P.
UM6P.
Yeah. University Polytechnic, University Mohammed VI Polytechnic.
Okay.
Sorry.
So good. And so you are a board member of the scientific journal Social Campus and a member of the International Commission for Peace Research at UNESCO.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, that is very much.
You have
Hallucinations.
Yeah.
no, because there is things that I took from Wikipedia.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that.
And I want to double check because
seriously, it doesn't really matter. So that's go for it, preciously.
at least it's not wrong. I mean,
No,
it's
this morning there was some kind of a podcast where people say that I've published that in 2003, but it was in 2007 and that, and I didn't interrupt because I don't care. At the end of the day, what is important is what I'm going to say.
yes.
So for
this-
me, just doesn't matter.
And this is why I
So
mean,
whatever.
I agree.
Just like, carry on.
Okay. Okay, and I think we can already skip. And you have published more than,
You have published many books.
more than 100 scholarly articles and 16 books, including La guerre des civilisations, nous rappelions en 2017, 2017, so French speakers, and Sans emploi, conditions de l'homme post-industriel, which focuses on violence, cultural identity, and the effect of artificial intelligence and internet on the human condition. This is exactly what we are looking here in this seminar, basically.
But today I'm not going to talk about that.
Yes, of course. And you more recently developed an analysis on transcendence, and modernity with the book Chaos. I don't know if I can show it. I'll show it later because we don't. No, we can show it now. I think we have. I will show it later when we will be on the full screen. So Chaos, and in 2000 and Success, l'industrialisation du mensonge. Voilà. Welcome,
Thank
cher
you.
Raphaël.
Thank you very much.
And we are very happy to have you with us today. And the reason you are here is because we met in Kyoto. I think Eric, you can stop sharing the screen, and so we can probably. Voilà, parfait. Merci, Eric.
Perfect.
Because we've met in Kyoto.
Yes.
And it was at A-Life.
Yes.
A-Life 25, Artificial Life, for those that don't know this conference. This conference is focusing on artificial life. There is part of it which is about AI and a lot of complex system and emergence. And we had a discussion and we come up with some conclusion about something missing in all the presentations that we've seen there. And you shared some of your thoughts. That's why we found it was really interesting discussion we had at last October, and the topic is going to be emergence before.
Yeah, emergence before emergence.
Emergence
before emergence.
Emergence before emergence. This is your word, emergence before.
Yes.
Your concept.
Yes, it is.
The floor is yours now, as we say.
All right, great. Yes, I'm going to try. It's what I'm going to do today is very theoretical, but what I ask for a theory when I'm reading one, and so what I try to do when I'm trying to elaborate one, it's at least to be coherent. Doesn't mean that it is verified empirically, but that means that it's coherent. That's what I try to do, according to what we already know, of course. Mm-hmm. So the first, to understand what I'm calling emergence versus emergence, it's out of, where does it come from? This idea. It comes from my feelings, I would say, and sometimes things start with feelings, intuition, something like that. That exactly, as you said, there is something that is missing in all those complexity theories, and in particular with these concept that is related with complexity theories, the concept of emergent state. And when I was listening to people talking about that, computer science people, people very involved in theory of information, even cognitive scientists, philosopher of the mind, as they call that in Britain and America and all that, I was really unsatisfied, always unsatisfied. And when I was talking, it's like if they assume things that are not for me logical, are not coherent. It's like if they were describing something, but not explaining it, pretending that the description is an explanation. Like they will say, oh, there is a complexification, and at one moment there is an unbalance, something is happening, and it's another state. Say, yes, but what is happening? Say, oh, it's because it's complexity, and so they will draw you on the map with shapes, like it's helicoidal, or there are multiple dots. After what number of dots, it become autopoietic, and all that, and all that. I say, just, but for me, that's not logical. You don't give me any explanation. It's just not coherent at all.
The why is never answered.
Never answer, but I don't ask them to answer like a complete why. Like with the ontological explanation of everything, but at least to answer like what I would call like a relative, like a small why, but not even a small why. It's like if they were doing magics, pretending that they have solved something, while they have described something that already happened. Like, yes, of course, it's more complex. All right. And because it's more complex, like for instance, when I say, oh, that's a neural network, but when the neural network is becoming so complex, oh, now it's awareness. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, just even what's his name already? We talked about him, like the cognitive philosopher.
Hofstadter?
No, not Hofstadter, not Dennett. Even Dennett, that pretend like I'm going to explain consciousness like if it is the digesting process and very. I don't think it's even convincing. I don't think he's even coherent in his. And I like what he says because at least he assumes complete materialism and totally. But it's for me also incoherent. Doesn't explain what is actually happening. And Hofstadter too. These multiple loops and everything. At the end of the day, you don't. Okay, yes, loop in loop, and it's just like infinite loops, and then so it becomes right. But I don't think it has the power to explain really what is actually happening there. So it starts from there, and it starts from this feeling that it's not complete. And so I wanted to try to find a framework that at least, because I don't find it outside in reading books, in looking at conference, that will at least satisfy a bit my curiosity, my will to see something coherent. And so I will try to describe, how can I say, my postulates or my axioms a little bit. And so the first one, and to make people understand what I'm talking about, I think it's great if we start with quantum physics, because it's very related with quantum physics, what I'm saying. The first thing is that quantum physics, what shows quantum physics? It shows that everything seems relational or processual or field, to say it in a more articulate way. First axiom. The second is that so a particle is less an object in a traditional sense than an event. On a fundamental point of view, doesn't mean that objects don't exist, but on a fundamental point of view, they are events. So, for instance, if I give an example, a very precise example that people are very, almost everybody agrees on that. What is a photon? It's a particle, but this particle is a quanta of electromagnetic fields. So, in that sense, it's an interaction that creates the particles, at least the appearance of something that is supposed to be an object. But still, when we are thinking with this way of thinking like wave particle, it's like if we have been that so we are still seeing the world like in a duality, in a binary way. Like say, oh, on one side there are waves, and on the other side are particles, and the particles, they are like created, we could say created or produced by some kind of interaction, wave interaction that we call a quanta, because when there is enough interaction, it's like it becomes a certain mass and it's becoming visible. That's the first level of complexity, in fact, because an interaction is the minimal complexity that creates the thing. So we are already into those theories of complexity with this idea that there is an emergent state through what? But the first interaction. And after, we are again talking about interaction, like when you are talking in some kind of philosophy of the mind, of how many interactions do you need to create consciousness and this kind of thing. So I think basically it's nice to come back to what allows us to say like, oh, that's the interaction, that's the first interaction. So my real question, emergence, not imergence, emergence at a quantum level is the expression of a specific interaction. So it's what I said. But, and it's my first question, and we start to answer to my question. Between those quantas, because there is now a reflection in quantum physics about what's happening between those quantas. And, and many people are, speculating, and even quantum physicists, they're speculating sometimes, saying things that will look really absurd from the outside, if you're not used to. So please allow me to say things that will look very absurd, because they actually allow themselves to do that. And my question is, what is happening between those quantas? Those leap, they call also that leap, are interactions, between those things that seem to exist in a common sense. And what is happening between this mystery of between? Like it seems that there is nothing between, that things don't even exist, but in fact they might exist because that creates something that exists. So they decided to call it in a negative way. In quantum physics, they say it's undetermined. It's their way to talk about it, right? Because it means it's not determined yet. Whatever that means, it sounds not very good. But in fact, I think this way of thinking that is very successful on an empirical point of view. It's undeniable. That's for sure. That's the reason why these theories are successful. They lack explanation, and they lack, in fact, what I will dare say and call. I will not have done that and allowing myself to say that as a philosopher, because I would have been broken by my own colleagues. They lack metaphysics. And when I use the word metaphysics, I use it literally. Metaphysics applies perfectly here because it refers to the nature of what seems to not exist materially, actually. So it's really metaphysics. Because it's not physical in a common sense. So I can call it metaphysics. So it's what I mean by metaphysics. What is existing, not existing between those leaps, or what is, to use another word that is used in quantum physics, what is the nature of those cloud of possibilities? It's blurring a cloud of possibilities from which emerges a determined reality that becomes limited, clearly expressed, etc., particles and all that, and now we can do like real physics, that's reassuring and everything. So my hypothesis is to reach my hypothesis that I say that what actually happened is what I call emergence. It's what I call emergence. It is that. Okay. We start with that. And so to understand what is emergence, what I've tried step by step to conceptualize, we need definitely to overcome what I was talking about earlier, this rest of binarity of the way we think, even when we think of wave on one side and on particles on the other side. Because when we think about wave, it's like if we were talking of when the wave, before the interaction, I will say. So what is those waves? And they say, oh, it's empty. Is it empty? Is it empty like it's nothing? And then tend to say that, like wave of nothing will give birth with interaction to particles of something. You think it's satisfying? Even Einstein, he couldn't, be satisfied with that. I'm not satisfied either, but not from the same point of view than Einstein's point of view, that wanting to make everything causal. That's the other way around for me. It's like what we call causal is actually just an effect of what is actually happening with emergence.
So the matter or the phenomena is a consequence.
Yes, it's a consequence. It's not the other. So step by step, I will reach that what we call complexity doesn't mean that it does not exist. It means that when we are looking at complexity, we are looking forward in what is already happening, but we are not looking at what actually is at stake inside. Like causally. We are just looking at something that has already happened, and we take it as a cause because we don't have any other way to talk about it. And so, when we say that, like waves of nothing giving birth to particle of something, I think, perfectly incoherent. It's like from nothing comes something out of complexity, because we don't have any other way to talk about it. So I would like to start from here,
Okay.
from this thing. And so to say that, when I'm talking about binary, to say that if we decide, but it's just an intellectual decision, to consider that it's not binary, but that's a unity, problems step by step, and many things that looks like paradox are not paradoxes anymore. And it's what we're looking when we are looking for a theory, like some kind of coherence, like overcome paradoxes, like how come something could arise from nothing, could happen when, and so this unity, I called it the inner tension, like a tension, and I take tension like, and it's actually like a magnetic field, like two polarities, and there is a tension, so something that is more, and a tension that can have different strength. So it's a unity, a tension is a unity, but it's a dynamic unity, and it gives, it's very, it looks a little bit like process philosophy, what I'm saying. I mean, you could put it in the category of process philosophy, like it's a process, it's not binary. So this tension, in my way of thinking, is at the core of reality. It's why when we observe something that looks a little bit more like that, or like that looks different, in fact we observe variation of tensions, of the strength of tension themselves. This tension is not, on one side you have something that is perfectly empty, and on the other side you have something that is, that's a real thing. Because we will come back to this paradox. That's the reason why I decided, even in the book you were referring to.
Which one? This one?
Yeah, in this one,
yeah.
to not call empty, but void. Because void is not the fact that it's with nothing, that there is no thing, it's not negative. The void is of another nature that we will talk about further on. So
may I just, for
Yeah.
clarification, when you speak about this tension, do you see it as some sort of additional force in the universe that would be...
No. I see it as being the constituent and at the same time the force of the universe, and the other, for instance, the four classical force, like the four classical force as being a declination of this inner force.
But
and
so like a universal law, or more like a sub...
I will even call it, I won't even call it a universal law, because it can be formalized, because the tension itself can be, can declinate and divide itself in multiple variations, and those multiple variations, of course, they can depend on the laws themselves. But it's with the point of origin of the very definition of the different laws that we can actually formalize, but afterwards.
Which, I mean, it's going to be hard to say any law that can capture that, because, as you said, it's a metaphysical.
It's metaphysical, but in the same time, it gives some kind of an insight that can allow us to let new law of matter appearing, and that are really laws. It's what I will come back. I will go on that later. So, because I said there is a tension, a tension goes in one direction. And it's where the idea of the creation of matter, it goes from, it's like if it goes outside of itself. Like the void going outside of itself. It's a little bit hard to understand it because it's a bit metaphysical to say that. But in my way of thinking, emergence, it's the forward expression that creates object, system, organism, so through complexification, from this inner tension, that goes to the outside, that overcomes itself to the outside. But the emergence, so the development, emergence is the development of the growth towards the outside of itself, has, and it's very important, at that point it's a very important moment in what I'm trying to say, it has to be centered. it has to be centered from the inside, so the downward. Why? Because if it is not centered, it will go in multiple directions, so it will be completely random if it is not centered, right? And so at that time that I will use an analogy, I think I will use just 2 or 3 analogies, and I will also show the limit of the analogies, those analogies, because an analogy is just an analogy. The analogy of the ball. Do I pronounce it well? Like the ball, like a ball, you know? Yes. And so the ball is, it's interesting because you have the arrow, you know, that goes in a certain direction.
It goes forward.
Forward. And you have, you know, the string on the bow. And it's like if people that try to modelize complexity and emergence, they focus towards the outside, so they follow the arrow. They follow the arrow and they say, yes, there is something that is really happening. It's a vector, like it's going in a certain direction to reach a target, and at the level of human being, it would be like self-surviving to reach a certain target, going in a certain direction, and so you need to overcome some outside obstacles, so it becomes so it become a little bit more complex. You have strategies and all that, but there is this idea of the arrow and the target, and so they follow that. And it's like if they were mesmerized by that and trying to find the cause of what is happening through, you know, the way the arrow, where the arrow is going, and what is the shape of the arrow itself, etc., etc. Why? When they modelize that, they don't, in fact, see that it's like if they took the effect for the cause, because the cause of the direction is actually the fact that the string is going in the other direction. It's going the reverse direction. The tension is the fact that you go in the other direction, and when it goes in this direction. But they look only there. But they don't look in the reverse way, in the other way, and it's where it's actually happening. I mean, the best analogy of what I call emergence is the very process of that, because it's what is also centralizing and give the coherence of the path that will follow actually the arrow.
But so in this analogy, it becomes a bit like a force.
Anyway, it's a force.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a force. But what I mean is, I prefer to call it a tension.
Yeah.
But all the forces in the universe, in my view, you're right, are actually, as I said, like a declination of this main tension. But there are forces that are, of course, but I try to make it like a general framework to understand even what are forces. Those forces, and you're right, it works like a force, because right when it works, it becomes a force.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to suggest also some form of conservation of energy, you know? So
yes.
in that, yeah.
Yes. So the modelization that are try to identify emergent state first at the quantum level or quantum interaction, like say, oh, there is an emergent state, and after from which emerge particles, and after from that emerge molecules that are or before that heavier and heavier atoms. And heavier atoms are just atoms that are just more complex, for instance, you know, through nucleosynthesis, so the merge of different atoms, up to complex organisms, etc., etc. So they identify complexification, and they are right. You know, it's clear that helium is heavier and a little bit more complex than hydrogen, and up to, you know, the different element, oxygen, and all these things, and molecules, more complex organisms, and all these kind of things. But they search for the cause of the transition from one state to the other, just observing the arrow, but they don't observe the creative tension itself. But now, it will be like if they were always late. Like if it was always too late. That explains what we were when we were in Kyoto, this kind of desperation of all those people working in information theory, saying, oh, that's this shape, or maybe no, that this algorithm that allows autopoiesis to work, etc.
Geometry also.
Geometry. There is some kind of fetishism of the shape of the different dots, the way they are, the way they are positioned on the map on the computer and all that. And so, oh, that's it. We have reached it. And for me, from the outside, it looked a little bit like the scholastic debates in the medieval age for little details that, like 100 years after, they thought they are against each other, but they all say the same thing. Because they are all looking in the same direction, like literally hypnotized by this direction, by thinking that they will find something there. Well, there is nothing to find there because it already happened. It's what I'm, trying. There is this example of the dots that I just talked, so I'm not going to. It's elliptic, it's not elliptic, how is it? And after, what they do, they try to decide that there's those little dots, and we have seen that. If you go, there are always dots everywhere.
Dots, yeah.
And they put on top of those dots rules. And they say a certain kind of rule, like in a game, and after, let's see what will happen when we have those rules and those dots, and things will complexify all by themselves. And so on. But it doesn't work like that in the real world, in nature. Why does it work like that? Because in fact, what is important are not the dots, but again, I come back, what is between the dots, but they forget about it. They don't think about it. It's on the computer, the dots are there. But what is between the dots? I could call it the glue. What makes the dots being taken, but they don't care about that because they put the rules that magically relate the dots with each other. But it's just magical. It's just because you have decided that you just put the rule in there saying it will behave like that, and after you let it go, like the game of life kind of things, these kind of things. But what is important is the glue. And more importantly, the glue between the dots, but also understanding that the dots themselves in real life, they are glues also. And it's what quantum physics shows us. It's like there are things between, the lip, the different lip, but the lip themselves are interaction of things that are not much, but devoid if they are not the interaction. So what I'm calling the glue, it's not the glue like a material glue. It's like the glue itself is in fact the interaction, like everything is interaction.
How is it related to tension?
I will carry on because I a little bit because it's and after I will answer in detail how it is related to tension. Yeah. So we have to understand that the glue is not substantial. It's not something that is underneath and that stick things together. But it's not only either a rule that you put from the outside in the computer that will make it happen magically and because it doesn't work like that in the real world. So what has to be understood that is what is the nature of the glue, and I reach step by step because I haven't yet defined what I mean by the void. I was just saying that there is the tension, but what is important is that to understand that the glue is the tension of the string of the bow in my way. But so the launch of the bow is the launch of the object in the universe. But it's the limit of the analogy here. Why? Because in a regular common arrow, the arrow exists before the tension in the real world. It's like when we are talking about waves in our world, there are waves but that have a content, for instance, waves of water. But when in quantum physics they talk about waves, it's not waves of something that will be substantial. That's the same thing with my analogy of the bow here. It's not they are not like a string with a bow that is here. You take a bow that is here and an arrow. You take the arrow and you do that and you launch it. No, the launch of the throwing of the arrow actually create the arrow. It's the tension itself that creates the arrow. That's the difference. Like when you are talking about weight on a quantum level, you say it's a friction of the void. So you can't accuse me to say something that sounds absurd because it sounds as absurd as what I'm saying, but in the same time, that has a certain coherence to understand what is happening after when the things are actually happening. So now, that means the tension is a creative tension because because the arrow does not exist before. This is a movement of pulling inside that when it is thrown away, it gives a direction, not only a direction, but it creates the thing itself that is the direction. The thing itself is the direction. So the direction through the constitution of a specific material.
The complexity.
Exactly, already the first interaction. But what now could pull inward? And what does that mean? When I say, what means inward? What could pull inward? What could have this force, as you will say, and what means inward in itself? And it is there that we need to come back to get back to quantum physics, because this inward, this pulling, this emergent process is that allows the throwing of the arrow, but in the same time the creation of the arrow when it's thrown away, is actually the void. But when I'm saying it is the void, the quantum void, I'm not saying it's empty, because again, it will not have any meaning if we are in this binary way of thinking. It will not be coherent. So to make you understand it, I told you there was a second metaphor. There are three metaphors. I will see one. Second analogy. It's like a window or door in a room, and when you open it a little bit violently, it creates an indraut, we say in English, which is an appel d'air in French. An appel d'air. It's just like, so it creates like ventouse, I don't know how to say that, like this kind of effect. So what I mean is we have to think the void not in terms of something that exists or not exist. Like quantum physics, they say it's undetermined. But we have to think about it in terms of properties. It exists as the properties of when you open it, it just creates that. And that is the tension. That makes all, like if you were, and when it creates a tension, it centralized something. Because it's in the middle, and when it's in the middle, it allows a growing that is coherent. Because there is something that take it, in the middle, because it's at the heart of it. It's like if it was an inhaling or an indraut, an absorption that creates this tension that allows the material world to fall or to go beyond itself, but in a coherent way. Otherwise, it will not go in. It will not be possible to go to express itself in a way that it expresses an identity, it expresses a certain complexity. But when we say complexity, we mean that the different parts that are growing, they are growing according to a certain coherence. And what makes this coherence, in my view, is actually it's because there is an inner pole that is centralized and that gives the coherence to the entire things from the inside, right? What I call like this, the fact that it's not empty, explain why the voids are not, it's not like there is just a void, there is a composition of voids. Because what I mean is, when we're talking about nucleosynthesis, and I already talked about it, nucleosynthesis is the fact that we are going from a very light atom, like hydrogen, for instance, to simplify that. Maybe there are little things before that we didn't know before, but now. and it becomes more complex because you know, according to the electrostatic repulsion, going beyond electrostatic repulsion, there is a merge of a nucleo, the noyau, how do you say noyau in English? Nucleo, yeah, nucleo, and it becomes heavier and heavier, and so it scales up to things that are more complex, even at an atomic level. It's like if we, in the same way that we describe nucleosynthesis to the process, the outside process, and we are right, it's actually happening. We don't describe another merge, it's the merge of the voids themselves. And the merge of the void themselves, the inner merge of the void themselves, that exists at the heart of the material world, we know it is that. In fact, they increase the tension and they allowed objects to be bigger objects to be taken and to be coherent on the larger and larger scale, right? But even the universe itself, when we are talking about the Big Bang, is actually taken and coherent in its way to getting bigger and bigger in this way because there is this, we could call it the primordial void, even if we don't know what is before, because that doesn't mean anything to say what is before, because it actually creates space-time. You know,
Are
yeah.
you suggesting that as emergence grows, this sort of complementary process, imergence, creates a sort of comparable force in the void?
What I'm suggesting is this void that works with its property of absorbing or like creating this tension allows the universe to be coherent in the production of matter, because coherence means that there is something central, and at first there is a first central thing that will be like the beginning of space-time, for instance, or at least a certain space-time, and after this specific space-time there is the merge of other voids that create more complex things that will be relatively independent from each other, etc., 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 etc. Doing all like this synthetic. What I'm saying is this synthetic process, again, that we see in nucleosynthesis is again a process that is going forward, but to go forward in a coherent way, you need to have this tension that centralized every object to make it coherent, like even an organism is even more coherent. And in order to do that, you need to have the merge of the voids into a void that is more powerful, like a force.
Yes, because there are all these centers.
Exactly.
And so it's like they also converge in the invisible, almost.
Yes. When we say, yes, in fact, we can say in the invisible.
They build an invisible structure.
Yeah,
also.
exactly.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you look about some of the theories of quantum physics by other authors, when they talk about implicate order, for instance, it's a little bit what I'm trying to say. The implicate order doesn't come from nowhere. This implicate order is itself work itself in the process, and it's the process of those merge. You know, it's a merge of properties than what something, because it's not a thing, because it's the void. You know, it's hard to explain. Another way to explain it. So that's the reason why we have a universe that can be multi-centered, and that can be articulated, and more complex in certain of its parts. Another example that will be my third analogy. It's even the more simple one. When I'm saying articulated, I'm referring to what is an articulation. For instance, an articulation like a limb, you know, an arm, for instance, or a leg. It's very simple. It's very, very simple, but it looks, I think for me, the simplest ideas usually show things that people don't see, because they are too, like in the scholastic time, like actually, lost in little curls. But look what is an articulation, like what is an arm. They are, for instance, in an arm, and other articles, they all work like that. You have a triceps and you have the biceps. if you want, the triceps looks like the main force that is doing that. It will not be able to do that. Well, it is the tricep that actually does that. If you didn't have the bicep that actually pull in the other sense, and it's the biceps that pull in the other sense, I'm not inventing that. It's the way it works physiology that pulls in the other sense. That's the reason why you can have a coherent direction. Otherwise, people that have actually a problem that exists physiologically, they can't move because they are just they can't coordinate the thing, and it's not correct. It is like that. What I try to explain. So it is because we don't think about the antagonist. It's like if we were trying to understand the movement of the arm when they do complexification and all that, and that is going this way, not understanding that if there wasn't the bicep that is going in the opposite direction, and that gives actually, that centralizes it and gives its coherence, it will not be possible. It's like they don't see that. So because they don't see that, they make modelization only going forward, etc. And because they see that there are some kind of incoherence, they put rules in it, saying, yes, all stick together, but let's see what will happen according to those rules, etc., etc. So the deployment, the movement, the development, all that needs I'm not able to read myself. Anyway. Yes, it has consequences that are interesting, because for instance, what Poincaré, the very famous mathematician, also physicist, says, I think it's still valuable, because even Einstein had a difficulty to say, how can we define the mass? What is the mass? You know that the mass is actually a curving space, and we know many things, etc. But my definition of the mass is just the intensity of the tension. It's actually what is the mass. And I'm talking about Poincaré because he said we can give many blurred definitions, but we actually don't know what is the mass. And my hypothesis that the mass is actually that. It's the different tensions that are allowing a higher level of complexity. Because the tension is stronger, so it allows a higher level of complexity, because it can take more, like metaphorically, you see what I mean. So we need to try to understand that the object are not only the project, not only the product of external merge, but are the project, as I said, of inner voids that create different intensity of tensions that allows heavier objects and heavier mass, and that there are more and more complex things to exist relatively independently from each other. That starts for what we know about the Big Bang. It explained kind of other things. And there is also this sentence that I even read this morning by Carlo Rovelli, like the quite famous, for his work, for his serious work, and also for his more vulgar work. He says something that is quite interesting. He says, under a certain quantity, underneath, we'll say exactly, a certain quantity of matter, it's like if matter was absorbed inside its own black hole. I'm not saying it. But for him, its own black hole, that means inside nothing. So there is nothing. For him, that's that. But for me, I'm interested in this sentence, but saying it's not empty. It's because he's still thinking in terms of binarity. It's just that there is this void that is actually grabbing, that is taking the thing that is, definition. I've already said. Now, I think it's also interesting that if we talk about Rovelli, one of the things he's trying to do is trying to unify, quantum, what he observes in quantum physics, this little quantum matter, and gravity. And he's part of the group of people that talk about quantum gravitation. But I think they are trying to unify. Unify something by still keeping this binary point of view metaphysically, and that's the reason why they are in front of paradox that are not able to think, and that kind of block them to even understand empirically afterwards what is happening. I'm not saying that, I'm just doing some kind of metaphysical work, but I think metaphysics is interesting to help change a view that afterwards could be could open the door for more empirical world. For instance, I think that what I'm trying to explain in the same time the curving of space-time to the merging power of quantum voids. Because the merging power, as I said, create a tension that is stronger, and the stronger the question is, space that is matter is actually curving, so that it's logical according to quantum physics. What the fact that the universe itself will be. So I'm not saying that I'm solving like what everybody wants to solve, etc. But I think just having this perspective right away gives the view that looks a little bit more coherent than what you have right from the beginning when I'm saying like wave, particles, wave, and so how can we understand what is happening? Or so the universe is curving on a big space, on a macroscopic way, but at the same time it's not even coherent according to what is happening in the granularity of quantum reality, etc., etc. And I think if we have this view, it kind of make it easier maybe to let your mind think about other solutions. It's what I want to mean. And it has another consequence, is to understand that matter is not something inert, that is just there, and that it's the combination itself that actually gives its, for instance, that gives life to organism. Is the fact that it's combined in a certain way. I think it's totally absurd to that. Just to say, oh, it's the fact that it's numerous and that it's combined
in some way
that it becomes life, or it works. No, it has to have a force that allows this combination to be sufficiently coherent to be able to call it life, and so it can grow together, which is the definition of concrete. Concrete means to grow together. In order to grow together, the together is very important, it has to be related with something that is centralized to it. And it's what is the inert, that I also call the void. And so that's the second consequence. And the third consequence, it's maybe, and now we are arriving to philosophy of the mind, because it's maybe the idea that what I call active here, and this, that could be a definition, at least I could try at first to call it mind. I'm not talking about awareness or consciousness or something, but a certain quality or a certain strength, a certain kind of tension on an organic level or scale could become intention. The tension itself, because it's again this idea of the arrow that it was, and going in certain directions. So with higher organisms, with stronger voids, with complexity, step by step, the tension could convert into intention. And that becomes, yes, what we call awareness. But then, that will be understandable right from the start, that we could reach something that we call mind, that we call intention, that we call this kind of thing. But it will be coherent according to what is the very nature of the material world itself. That's about it. Could say other things, but I think
that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's still in process.
No, it's the word intention.
Yeah.
It could be related somehow to tension. Intention.
How do you spell it?
That was actually my question.
Yes. Yes.
Well, somebody is.
Yes, I was saying that was actually my question.
Sorry, we don't hear anything.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, so we do. Perfect.
Okay, can you hear me this time? That's fine.
Yes.
We hear.
Okay, so this question about intention was actually, something I noted from the beginning. I was wondering about the relationship between the concept of emergence and emergence, and how it relates to the action and the intentionality that come from inside that we were discussing in other seminar. And like, is it something which is, there is some kind of symmetry with your concept, or is it included in your concept? and maybe a relation between the void and the need. And related to AI, like, does it mean that the lack of intentionality make impossibility of emergence? And to extend that question, what are the conditions of emergence? Like, can we try to define, continue to thinking backward? What are the reasons of that void? Like, why?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think we can ask. At least I'm not able to do that. To give any answer related to the nature of the void itself. That's the reason why I think it's more productive to define this void according to its property, more than trying to say what it is. Because when we say what it is, right away we enter into contradiction, making it something substantial, while in fact it has property that creates even what we call the substantial world through this process of inert. So it's true that to understand what I'm saying, maybe we need, I've done my dissertation when I was in Edinburgh and my Master of Philosophy of Science on Whitehead. So it's clear that I locate myself very much into process philosophy. And when I'm saying process philosophy, I'm radically into it. So when I'm saying radically into it, I say if you try to define, for instance, polarities that creates a field, pay attention, as being something that is there, as something that is there, that's not possible. It's like if you are trying to say what is inside the black hole. It's like if you are asking this question, or another question, you say what was before the Big Bang. But the fact of the matter is that space-time has a certain consistency. It's the consistency itself of space-time that is actually created through this tension. But I will say that it's not possible to predetermine the intention of the tension. I don't know if it's hard to answer the question you ask, because what I'm trying to do is reformulate the question to show that if I were to answer something specific, it's like if I were to betray my own assumption, my own postulate, because I just try to show that what we could call, for instance, whatever meaning we give to it. For instance, if you are a vitalist, you say, this growing process of the matter is going a certain direction. Maybe that means that there is an intention in reality, like the vital principle that goes in more and more and more complex, etc., etc. I think it would be a wrong way to think about it. And this, in the same way, people say, so you mean it's totally random, etc., etc., etc. I think it's totally wrong way to think about it. In fact, it's the way we think in our world, because we need to say, this is random, this is causal, this is that and that. I think at the very basis of how all things works, at least it is the hypothesis, there is this tension that works like an inroad. And this inroad, it's what gives the direction, like the arrow going in this direction, that allows the arrow to go there. But I'm not going to, because I'm not able to try to say, is this intention already preconceived in the tension itself? No, I think it's the other way around this time. This time I think the fact that there is this tension, it's going in one direction. And so when it's going in one direction, that means there is an interaction, if we follow. And after there could be another interaction that makes things more complex. And the more it's going in one direction, the more it has chance, probabilistically, to go in this direction and to carry on going in this direction. Because it's like there are more and more interaction.
The thing is that we are building AI. We are the builders. We are making it. And so we are looking for the times, and maybe suddenly there will be an emergence. And so my question was more like, okay.
Make it complex enough to make life appear or something like that.
No, hopefully it will not be complex. I mean, if you come with a simple solution, I'm all
But you mean like to be autopoietic?
I would like to understand the condition because I would like to provoke this condition and these things can emerge.
Sure. What I think at least is that it's not possible for me to reach intentionality, like if we're talking about that, through the complexification itself. To answer you in a simple way your question, my way is not through the complexification, and nowadays it seems like people believe that it's the more complex it is, that at one moment there will be an emergent state that will be intentional in the machine. I don't believe that, because
so it might not be a one condition. I mean, one of the things, like something we're working with Adele actually, is a lot about embodiment and physical AI. And I'm wondering, like, if one of these conditions to create the needs, to create the void, is not the interaction with the other human, other AI, and if not, going in through this era, which is starting now actually, of having more and more robots into our society, will not provoke this intentionality if they can have some inner state, which is what they're lacking.
This time I could start to talk about another kind of work, like the work what I wrote in Chaos. I think intentionality, the inner strength, I don't know how to say, of intentionality is actually desire, in my way. So now we are talking only about organism. There is what I call in my work the desire to survive, like to maintain your structure, etc., like you find already in cells. The desire to live, or meaning to survive better. It's also what I call objective luxury. It's a luxury because you could go and get your food, not walking, but you can go walking instead of using a bicycle. But if you use a bicycle, you know that you're saving 3/4 of an hour, so you can measure. And the third step is the desire to be. What I call the desire to be, it's directly related to the ego and to the fact that you're able to have some actions, to desire some action that could even destroy you, because you have a vision of yourself that goes beyond your even physical survival and these kind of things. It's what I called subjective luxury. So it could be negative, it could go until like even self-sacrifice, heroic gesture, etc. But it's a kind of desire. It looks like a desire, and it could be also another way. What is this desire to create something that make you exist beyond what you are? Like, for instance, writing a book, doing so many other things. So, if I'm saying that to answer your question, I'm sorry to have gone. It's for me the limitation of the machine is related to this third layer. For what reason? But maybe I'm wrong. It's just my but it's maybe I'm wrong. For what reason? It's now that I will answer your question, I think, more specifically. I think my view of the machine, of AI, it is that it is always more efficient, so it can treat always more data, and so it works with optimization. And it's not the question that it can program itself, etc. That's fine. I can perfectly understand that it can program itself, etc., etc., etc. But what you find in the typical intentionality that works with the desire to be in human beings is that it doesn't optimize. It does the opposite. A way to say that it doesn't optimize, it doesn't work with optimization. A way to say it is that human beings, they might be less efficient to solve problems than machine, and it's already the case. In the 50s or the 60s, it wasn't really already the case. For instance, if you were to play chess with a machine, you really had to be a very good player. You really had to be
for arithmetics, it was already the case.
Yeah, exactly. No, but in any case, Machines are more efficient now, and it's undeniable that they are more efficient, and they will be even more because they will be more and more and more optimized. But the main feature of human beings is that they create problems, so obstacles, that are not necessary at all. And I give an example. The fact that they create games. The machine, when the game is there, they could have the more complex way to react to the game, so to follow the rules, and will always beat the human. For instance, let's say an obstacle that is the little filet, or how do you say the on ping pong you have the obstacle, because you create a game always with obstacles, and they will be better, but except that human beings, they want to create obstacles for the worst, like the quarrels in a couple, for instance. They create problems that don't exist, or they will create problems that don't exist. For instance, they want to go to the moon. It doesn't have at first at least any reason on the evolution point of view, on the usefulness, on the optimization, on anything, but there is a distance that they want to overcome, which is the obstacle. But when you have overcome this obstacle, it gives you a new perspective that you couldn't anticipate before you had seen this. So I will say that in my way, the machine, the most sophisticated machine, even if you the most sophisticated machine can't be in this logic of creating obstacles that actually don't exist, because the creation of obstacles that don't exist, it's not optimization, it's related to the ego that could even be self-destructive on one level, but in the same time that is also creative. And so for me, that's the limit of artificial intelligence, for what I see.
Well, I mean, my view is that I'm not sure like the machine will not come themselves with games one day. And games for themselves, not game for human.
You mean so if they are allowed to do that, that means that they will live in a world of enjoyment, so they will be able to have this, what I call this desire to be. So they will, because the desire to be is related to the desire to be singular, to be seen as different from others.
We are not there yet, but might be one day emergence of this type of behavior. I don't know why it's happening in human. I'm not a psychologist.
I don't think so, because I don't think a machine could be programmed to not be optimized, to not optimize things. Because even if you program a machine to have an ego, for instance, and it will be the external feature of the ego, so it will optimize the ego itself, which is not the ego at the end of the day.
The obstacles are created by the void, so that it can grow, or the singulation.
Okay, now there is. I don't dare saying that there is some kind of a mystical belief from me that will say. I think at the human level, the more you become complex, in fact, it's like if it clears the path to be more related to the essential void. And so this essential void is not only a source of emergence in a mechanical way, if I can say, but also of inspiration in a more poetic way, saying that even poetic means production, poiein. So and so I think it's like if at the stage of human being there was, of course it's metaphysical what I'm talking about. It's like if there was more and more, like it's not paradoxical, but the more you become complex, it's a little bit Hegelian to say that the more you become complex, the more you have access to what is more simple. In fact, so what is so to the origin. So the more you go far, the more you have access to the inner origin.
But related to this growing complexity, do you see it like branching, or is it always growing on the same path?
It's not always going on the same path, because again, now there is another, I didn't have time to talk about all the speculation, the weird and wild speculation I've tried to develop about it. But, you know, everybody says that we discover now that the world seems to be in deep interaction, everything is interrelated, etc., etc., etc. So, in my work, I try to show that there are two kinds of interaction. There is the interaction that creates space-time itself, that is going forward, so the complexification, so it creates like it's what curves the universe to creating space-time and diversity, etc. But in the same time, always unified by an original void and the multiple void that merge with each other, etc., but are related through the different expressions. So when they are related through space-time, they are related with distance. And the distance is itself growing, so it's far, 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 far. But in the same time, they are related from the inside. It's what I call immediate relation, because the central whole relates everything to everything. But in the same time, from the outside to the outside, they are related, but with growing distances. They're all related with growing distances, but inside themselves, they're all related, but without distance. There is like mediate interrelation and immediate interrelation in the thing.
But so then, if we go back then to AI,
Yes.
so then it's also of growing complexity.
Exactly, and it's part of the universe.
And it's part of the universe. It has a mass.
Yeah.
Right?
It has a mass.
So it must also have a counterpart in.
Yes.
So it's just how does this intention or emergence relates to ours
I'm not,
then?
in fact, because I need to be totally coherent with what I'm saying. At least I try, and so I must say, at the end of the day, we'll say, why not? Because it's part of the universe. It's also part of the complexification process. It's created by humans, but kids are created by humans also in a certain way. I'm not the kind of person to distinguish too much between what is artificial and what is natural. I think it's, again, a binary way of seeing things, because at the end of the day, it's also part of nature. Mm-hmm. But I will say, more unlikely, at least for now, and for what I see it, at least for now, because I think when something becomes autopoietic, it's not doesn't seem to be out of, how can I say, out of certain specific rules, algorithmic rules that predefine what we're supposed to be, and specifically also out of a certain shape that will be like, a geometrical shape, and we have seen that in the AI conference with all those dots, etc. I don't think it's out of that. At least I don't think it's out of that. I will be more interested with what says the guy that has written The Emperor's New Mind. What is
Penrose.
Penrose, even if he was criticized a lot in The Emperor's New Mind and the other books that followed, where he tried to explain himself to answering the different questions. So with this idea that there are, that even at the heart of what we think is our intentionality, our desire, things that we count, that are not computational, there are what he called some kind of quantum, it's the quantum, at the quantum level that everything is actually happening. I don't know how, quantum tube, I don't know, tubular.
Microtubules, that's the...
No, exactly, I think
we
call that microtubules. Not entering into the detail of what is saying, because it has been also dismissed in different ways, but at least what I will say is, as long as we are not able to work on those quantum processes, and we are not yet able to do it, I don't think we'll be able to build up. So maybe the solution will be with quantum computers, when they will really work. I'm not talking like now, when they work less than they make less calculation, than it's so heavy to be able to do a. But so it is at that stage. Yes, I had to rethink what I'm saying, and it will be quite coherent with what I'm saying actually, because in a way that will mean that we will have also, because there is also something else in your question, in what you say. It's that usually is not a question that is not raised, and that allows us to enter into those fantasies about what I call the Terminator paradigm, that it's been destroyed, blah blah blah, etc. if we are able at one moment to create like procreation, even physical procreation, artificial intelligence that will be aware, and so will have intentionality, and so what I call desire to be, so an ego and all the things that go all together. In the same time, if you have followed what I've said about the interrelations, that means they will benefit from a centralized whole that gives them what we could call a soul, but not a soul in the classical sense, even if it could also be related in what the tradition calls a soul. So this unity that is not physically defined, but that creates some kind of an inroad that gives coherence to the ensemble. And as I told you, through this soul or this whole or this void, they are related to everything else in the universe in this way, so they are also related to us. So that means they are in a relation with us that is not an external relation in the way we see it now when we're talking about, oh, it is artificial or is it natural? It becomes something else.
Yes, exactly.
It becomes something else. It's what I want to mean. And if it becomes, but I'm afraid that when we are talking today about artificial intelligence, we are talking about this other that is not us, so that could be against us, so that could take our employment, that could do that could, etc. So we are again thinking in terms of binary way. But if we are really able to have desire to be in quantum, that means that we will reach the quantum level. And if we reach the quantum level, if you have followed me, we are not only in the material world, it's something else that is actually happening here. The tension, if the tension is launched, yes, something else is created. But it's not, so to say, only what we have created. It just escapes us, but in a positive way, not in a...
I have a question from Jalen, who just joined. He's asking, how is Imergence different from convergence?
It's different from convergence because convergence again is looking forward. Convergence is going to the horizon, and it doesn't mean that it's not related. But convergence happened because there is Imergence. So it's because there is this process inside that takes the thing, that the thing can go in a direction that will look convergent.
Okay, he gave another more detailed question with context. He's asking, if non-equilibrium thermodynamics already explains the emergence...
Yeah, I need to read it back.
You can read it if you can.
Yeah. If non-equilibrium thermodynamics already explain the emergence
via entropy production
and production of coherence via entropy production and convergence under constraint, what necessity remains for positing an additional principle in inward tension? In fact, I don't see it as an additional principle, and I don't think entropy is actually producing coherence. Entropy is actually doing the opposite. It's doing the other way around. Entropy is actually the force of, we'll say, decoherence. It's the fact that it has a tendency to lose its coherence, like to falling in itself. We would say that if there wasn't Imergence, the world would be totally entropic, so it couldn't even create itself. And so the fact that there is a tendency to entropy, it's, for instance, I give you an example, because to keep the metaphor of the string, when the string goes too strongly, it breaks. And so it dies. And that is entropy. It becomes colder. It loses its weight. And when they lose its weight, it loses its tension. So its desire. It loses its going forward. And even at a material level, why uranium, this element that is one of the heaviest, is how it is called?
You can say it in French.
Nuclear. Comment on appelle ça, le rayonnement nucléaire qui est de là.
The radiation?
Exactly, radiation. Why? And why? Because it's heavy, it's almost unbalanced, and you put another particle, you bombard, you put another particle, and it breaks. And it becomes so, so that means that there is this tension, but this tension can break, and when this tension breaks, the organism or the coherence is broken, and it has to be used.
Is it not a cycle? I mean, this breaking can allow something else, and this is why I think he relates the entropy to the void, is because, I mean, the condition for emergence is chaos, and entropy is creating chaos. So it's not like then something emerges, then it's destroyed, create new entropy, and something else will emerge.
But if you take chaos on the real meaning of chaos, I agree. That's the reason why I take, because chaos means void in Greek. That doesn't mean disorder. That means it's before disorder. That means actually void, literally.
Yeah, but
and you relate it to mind at some point,
yes,
if I followed correctly. So is that hinting at some form of panpsychism?
Oh yes, of course.
Just
Totally. I told you that on that aspect I'm very Whiteheadian. And Whitehead was accused to be panpsychist, and he said yes, I am. And I don't think it is that incoherent. And you could say I'm an idealist on a Hegelian point of view. That will say yes, true either. But I don't limit myself to what Whitehead says, because I see some incoherence, of course, and to what Hegel said. But I'm definitely idealist. When I said maybe this tension, you can call it the mind, I didn't say it, in a very expressive way, but it's what I wanted to mean. Yes,
Tension.
Yes, and the tension itself is actually my definition of the mind.
How do you relate it to?
But not meaning the mind is already aware, but that the process of becoming more complex through this tension allows the mind to know itself, to talk in a Hegelian way. That's the reason why the level of human being, this kind of complexity that looks like the cause is not the cause, but the complexity allows to see what is the cause of the complexity itself. And that becomes the soul awareness and all that.
It's also very compatible with the embodied mind theory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfectly.
This tension, how do you relate it to desire?
How I relate it, that it's exactly
It's desire.
Yeah. It's what I'm at the level. It's like a glue. What is desire? It's the glue. When I was talking about the glue, I said the material world, we could say at the atomic level, we could say that we call the desire the glue, what sort of different forces. At the human level, it becomes more and more and more and more complex, and so it's translated into, if it is in more simple cells and organisms, it's the desire to survive, and after you have the desire to live, which is survive better, a little bit more complex, and after the desire to be, that reach such a level that it becomes aware of its own existence and can relate to other in a different way and relate to even itself by having some kind of an access to the void itself, which is this feeling of incompleteness that is the origin of religions. Sorry to be.
No, it's, you also mentioned the.
So in fact, I would say that the metaphysical native feelings of human beings that comes from their feeling of incompleteness is actually a form of realism. The fact that they are aware that there is something incomplete, that there is something that is not, paradoxically, that there is something not rational, that make us obsessed by, on one way, to express it symbolically, and on the other way, even to find rationality where we can grab something that is rational. So it's the same origin, this feeling.
You said also earlier that it has been centered, and this is very important.
Yes, it is important to understand it, because it's like if we forget, we see when it's what I've seen with, I've long talk with, for instance, with my friend Francis Eiligen, that is a great physicist working on complexification, on these kind of things. We had a big discussion, he invited me at his laboratory in Belgium, to his laboratory to discuss. Say, the thing is, that it's like if they were looking so much about what is happening, it's going in this direction, it's more complex, and so at one moment it becomes autopoietic, but to go at the same speed, for instance, to not be disarticulated, it's because there is the same tension, whatever it is in the structure. But that is forgotten. I don't know why it's forgotten, because it's just, so there is some kind of the modelization of what, and we will say, after how many interactions, it will change its nature. But it is not that is important. What is important is what relates the entire thing. What relates the entire thing is that there is this inner tension that makes it going this way, not like that and that.
So if I take one example about, this is what I have read on your book Chaos, about the first wave of industrialism.
Yes.
And the technique for the sake of technique.
No, what I'm saying in Chaos, it's more socially, but what I'm saying about Chaos, it's like if civilization have reached with modernity some kind of an awareness of this void, and it was translated into the idea of liberty. There is something that is, we are not determined, we are free, etc. And we don't even need the representation, the theological representation and all that. What I called raw transcendence, instead of refined transcendence, like if religion, they were refining this feeling through limited representation. So in the modern time, we call that liberty, because it's pure transcendence, liberty, but without representation. But it's like if we weren't, we weren't capable of absorbing this promise and this thing that we saw. Because we weren't able to do it, there was some kind of a materialistic, positivist regression trying to secure everything, to say that everything is causal, that everything is there, and it's fine. And it's also what I call the beginning of the cycle of power for power, technique for technique, because it was a way to repress the feeling we had facing directly the void in the 18th century that we called liberty and freedom. And so we weren't able to take responsibility for this awareness. And so instead, we decided to create some kind of a circular positivist theology.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just like
switching
exactly
to science.
So
exactly.
in this regard, can be AI?
Will AI be the next god?
But like, can be AI?
There is a kind of deification of AI today.
Yes.
That is
currently.
completely.
Yes,
And
yes.
right now it's happening under our eyes.
Yeah, literally.
And when we think about AI, it's also sometimes the technique for the sake of technique, and it goes just like today AI systems are built by just growing the compute capacity and adding more data and so on, and we're not looking elsewhere, we're not looking to other techniques that can help us maybe build systems that are more intelligent. I don't like to use this word, but can we say that AI can be disruptive in that way, or we are just reaching the limit of this technique for the sake of technique that the industrialism era is?
I think with AI, there is something I'm talking about maybe in the second volume in Success, I don't know. But I think the limit we are reaching, for me, the problem with AI is not what is usually seen as a problem. So I don't think AI will replace human being. I think it will replace in a very positive way if we want to. That's for sure. Or it could be very efficient to kill other people or to do plenty of things. That's for sure too.
For sure.
That's not the point, because atomic bomb is also, you can also use atomic bomb. That's just a question of what the Greek called a pharmakon. Depends on the use and the direction you use it. And pharmakon means a medicine and at the same time a poison. It depends how you use it, so that's not the point. But I see a real risk that I call the epistemological risk, that usually people don't mention. And I think for me is more dangerous than the other risks that are like the fantasy of you see in Hollywood movies and all that, on these kind of things. It's what I call the epistemological risk. It is that you have three ways, as you know, because you work on theory of knowledge and this kind of thing. You have three ways to assert, to prove a truth. You can prove it like factualism. You have met someone, you made the experience, but now you have met someone or you made the experience, but what do you know about this someone? It raised other problems, but at least there is this way to say, yes, that's the truth because I've met him or because that happened. The second is pragmatism. As you know, like, I know it's true because that works. And so there is a truth here. You can't deny there is something that works, so it's true, pragmatism. And there is the third one, that is the central, the more important one for science, on the essence of science. It's coherentism. Like, it's true because it's coherent. Maybe it doesn't work yet. Maybe I haven't made the experience exactly yet, but because it's coherent. And why I say it's more important? Because science is built out of that, and coherentism, it's the idea of theory. So you have a current perspective, right? So through AI nowadays, because AI works mostly with massive correlations of data, that becomes more and more efficient, and we don't have access to this level, this mass of data and all the correlation of this data. We will have correlation of heterogeneous data, and the word heterogeneous is very important for me. That, for instance, I look at you and I said, you were born there, you are used to wear this kind of clothes, things that don't have at first anything to do with, so it's heterogeneous. Your eyes are those colors, and you have that age, etc., and your blood rhesus is that, and I can add, not even thinking about what I had, and I put that on a massive bank of data on the world, and I can have probabilistic truth, if I can say, saying that at the age of 48 you have, I don't know, 48% chance to have a liver cancer in stage 3. It's actually true. But I mean,
that's not very nice, but yeah, okay.
You might have understood that I'm a hypochondriac. I'm a deep hypochondriac. So it's actually true. So you'll be scared. You will do things according to that, and you're right, because it's actually true. But what is very important is that you don't know why, because they are heterogeneous. And it's become more and more efficient, and I think for the first time in the history of humanity, we could say that through AI, we have some kind of stall, when a plane stalls, between the increase of efficiency and the increase of knowledge. Usually it follows the same track. The more, from the beginning, or at least from the 18th century, the more you knew something, the more it became efficient, and the more it became efficient, the more you could find reason for this efficiency. And now it's almost the other way around. So the more efficient it is, because probabilistically you know that this will happen at the age of, so you have to do something about it. And because I took the example of liver cancer or something, because it's so vital that you're not going to refuse this knowledge out of moral principle, just because you want to live. And so you say, okay, out of epistemological principle, I'm like an epistemological activist.
No, but, it's a probability, and then you go back. Because it exists in a movie, a scenario called Gattaca.
I know, of course.
And the whole movie is like, it's not because it's predicted like it will happen. It's a probability, and it might not be.
Yeah, but the fact.
So it's very dangerous to say that you will not accept for moral reasons.
The more massive the data are, and they are more and more massive, and it's what you were.
The highest will be the probability, but 1% is 1%. Live with it.
But at the end, myself being a hypochondriac, and I think many people are like me, I will choose a strategy to carry on my life in the best way, thinking that there is 98% for me to have that at this age, and I will do what is necessary. So what I'm saying is,
I think we should have to overcome this. If we have to speak about the AI age, I think that's something that people have to be taught.
But what I'm saying is, it's what I call, I don't know if it is in this book or the other, it's what I call the zombification of science. I know they love in theory of knowledge zombie examples and all that. So it's what I call the zombification of science, because it's when it lacks a coherent theory to explain something. And I think it's becoming more and today. We have more and more modelizations, but less and less theory per se. And while the heart of science, the essence of science, that was to find a theory. So that means if we think that knowledge in a pure scientific way is actually being able to have a theory that unify, that to understand what are the relations, it's like if we were going in different direction, why we can't do otherwise, because it's becoming more efficient. But the more efficient it is, the less we understand why. It's really weird. And so that's what I call the epistemological risk. Like more efficient, but the more it is efficient, the less we understand why it's efficient. And we don't have time to run after the machine to try to understand what is happening, because the machine is so much efficient that what we could do, that we don't have time to give birth to a theory, because by the time we will give birth to a theory to understand the relation between those apparently heterogeneous elements, we already have more efficiency to other. It's like, you know, those famous line when it does like that. Well, that it does like that, less and less knowledge. So that's what for me that's the risk, the most dangerous risk. With more than Terminator risk, and it will replace. The machine will replace human, etc., etc. But I'm glad if they replace me for doing the dish and all that, fine. I just that's
the thing that scares me. Eric, maybe you have a comment on that.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to Jalen points, because I was not satisfied with where we left it.
Maybe you can on Jalen points. Maybe you can read out loud his comment, his last comment, because I can read it, and then you can comment on that.
Maybe I can get my other glasses.
Go ahead. But when it comes to AI danger, I think one of the danger is not the fact that AI can replace human, but we are doing less and less intellectual work. We may also offload some of like critical thinking, for instance. Mm-hmm. The more we read, the more we think. Like the difference basically between, I don't know how to say it in English, but between savoir and connaissance. Yeah. Is huge. And so if we just thanks to AI have access to information, but we don't experience the information so that it be part of us.
But that's related to what I call the epistemological risk, in fact. Is the fact that step by step, with the epistemological risk, what I call the epistemological risk is the fact that even if we try to run after the AI to find coherence, we will not be able to do it, because the number of correlation will always be higher, so high that we will not be able to give a coherent theory. By the time there will be another other kind of correlation. So doing that, it's the top, I will say, of the iceberg of the fact that you delegate to AI your behaviors and what you want to do, etc. About acquiring knowledge by reading, by doing things, and you
experiencing
things.
The co-naissance.
Yes, exactly. Step by step, there is a process of delegation out of yourself.
This is maybe one of the worst things. Is we delegate these things.
It's like in a subcontract or something. How do you say, like
Eric, you wanted to go just
on
Jalen.
But basically, you're making this distinction between chaos and chaos in something important, and chaos with a C and chaos with a K. Okay, one is disorder, and basically, Jalen points was like, emergence comes from entropy and disorder and stuff. So I was wondering, can we reconcile these two concepts? Is your void metaphorical, and could it be the absence of order?
You have to read chaos. I think the answer is
I did not. Sorry.
what I try to see, why do I use the K instead of the C? Is because when we use the C, that means that it's the idea of chaos as being the privation of order. So it's disorder, like it doesn't have order, like that is the mess, I will say, right?
Mm-hmm.
But chaos doesn't mean that's the mess. That just means that it lacks representation, so it lacks limit yet. It's not decided yet. So it's very much look like what is called indeterminacy in quantum physics. But when you try to define indeterminacy, to say, is it really empty, is it not empty, etc., right away, it's like if you are determinating indeterminacy, and there is a contradiction in it. So that's the reason why, right from the start, I say it has to be defined by its property. Its property is the inner tension itself, that centralized things. But when we are saying, is it chaos? No, I think the tendency to chaos with a C, it's when the tension is so strong that it breaks, and so it becomes something else, and it can't be, and it's not, the parts are not related in a growing, coherent manner anymore. You know, even on an atomic level. That's the reason why I'm a psychic. Even on an atomic level, it's just what I'm saying, and I think it's very coherent with entropy and what we see to the outside. It's quite coherent. It actually works. It works with, as I said, nucleosynthesis. It works with multiple things. I'm not saying that it's the key of everything, but one of the things I wanted to show, but it's before, you know, because we were in a world where, you know, it's like if all the history of science from the half of the 18th century and the 19th century and all that, we started to see that the world is not a world so much of things that are so different, so opposed. Even until Einstein with space-time. It's not space on one side, time on the other side. He already with Maxwell, before, that inspired Einstein a lot, with electromagnetic waves, with there is not electricity on one side and magnetism on one side. In fact, it's electromagnetic waves. But what I'm trying to show is like we were in this direction to see, to go through the seeing of reality as being a process, but we didn't go right to the end because we didn't dare going right to the end, and we still maintain wave, particles, etc., 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 all this vision. And I think we have even to go beyond that to understand that it's completely a process, and the way to understand it's completely a process, it can be understood if we understand that this process is actually a tension, and the tension is the fact that there is some kind of an inroad, so inside emptiness or void, to say the truth, that you can't define in a material way because it's actually what creates the possibility of matter, and from the outside it feels, it's like if it feels by creating space-time itself to the outside. And if we do that, I don't mean to give an explanation like the pure metaphysical explanation of what it is, but at least it is easier even to think about possible unified theory from quantum physics and gravitation, for instance. It seems to me that it's easier. Maybe it's not, but it seems to me that right away it becomes more coherent. Things that looks like paradox, I think today, many things that looks like paradox, it's because we are still jailed into the binary idea that it's either particles or it's either a wave, and okay, there is the interaction of the waves, and it becomes, this time it becomes a particle, etc., etc., etc. And I think, but if you see something even more fundamental, and it's what science tries to do, to see something that is more fundamental, what I'm trying to explain is that what is more fundamental and that allows less paradox to appear afterwards is the idea that more fundamentally there is this tension. And when this tension is articulated in a certain way, it becomes the strong nuclear force, for instance, or it becomes the gravitation, or it becomes that, or it becomes something else. It's just what I'm trying to say, giving a hint. And in fact, I don't know why I will not allow myself to say that, because it's always like that science worked. There are people that say, okay, I have this intuition, but I'm not strong enough to do the demonstration because I'm not a mathematician, I'm not etc. But why not? Could it be a key to understand a little bit better what we can't understand now? That's my bet. But that's just that.
Just one thing, I will, before going in the comment of Jalen, you've mentioned chaos with a C. Isn't it the antagonist that is needed for the chaos or the void with a car to express itself?
Yes. The antagonist, it's like everything is working. You could say it's a bit Taoist, to talk a little bit like that. Except that if I put it in a complete Taoist way, I think I will lose the what you were saying, like the idea that it's really a force, that it's really a tension. I will lose that, because I will see like something that is a description of yin yang. There is yang in the yin, yin in the yang, etc. And yes, everybody knows that, and it works also a little bit like that. We all see that it works a little bit like that. Things are more grey than white, but in another sense, it's what we see also with quanta. They are sometimes totally black and totally white when it creates something that becomes granular, right? So that's the reason why it also overcome this idea that it will be just there is grey and there is black in white, white in black.
Outside of dualism.
Because exactly.
Okay.
So it's more. Yeah.
How do you? You've mentioned Taoism, and we see also in Buddhism and different metaphysical traditions the question of the point.
Yes.
That is in the center of the circle that is creating the matter that.
That is certainly interesting. That in the civilization, different civilization, they have this intuition that I think that everything is round, but to be round, it's because there is an inner force that gives this roundness, because it takes the thing in one point that is in the middle. Otherwise, it will go in different ways. Will not.
And also the intuition. The word intuition is interesting when it comes to AI, because AI today is built on human data, the data that we generate, language, images, and so on. But
it will not be. Now I'm going to be a little bit because it will not be always the case. Maybe because I heard with a friend. I don't remember his name. That is a philosopher and he's a mathematician.
Because there's a question of intuition.
And he says, and he told me that I'm right when I'm saying it's all correlation of data. But with those correlation of data, it's not the AI at one moment, at one point, doesn't use any more human language, but use a language to communicate with different other computers. Like it's an infra language. It's a latent space. Exactly, latent space. And this language is less and less accessible to us. So that's an interesting question.
This is maybe one of the most fascinating.
I think.
Maybe you can read the comment of Jalen and Eric. You want?
Where is it? Let me see.
Voilà.
Prigogine mathematically demonstrated that non-equilibrium entropic processes can generate and sustain order, coherent structure through instability and bifurcation without violating the second law of thermodynamics. Mathematical proof of negentropy arriving with entropy is open systems. I perfectly agree with that. I don't even think it's a question. I don't know if it is a question. I have read a lot.
I think it was a comment to emphasis on the fact that entropy is.
I think it's totally correct. I mean, I was very influenced by Prigogine and I know a bit Isabel Stengers and all those school, and I perfectly agree with that, because when I was talking about the void, I said there is like a void that unified somehow the progression of the universe, but in the same time there are break that create different voids, and are merging of different voids, and again the void which can be seen from the outside when it's created because a structure is broken as a chaos in a sea waste like disorder, will again merge into stronger void that will sustain other structure and other organisms and things like that. So what I'm saying also is just that you remember this sentence, very famous sentence, saying nature has the emptiness in her. La nature a horreur du vide. I think it's totally compatible, even if it doesn't look so, with what I'm saying. Because nature has in her emptiness, but not void. Not the void. Because emptiness there is never emptiness. So every time there is something that is broken, like for instance, because the string was too strong, there is again, is left, with the material that is left, again, immediately there are other processes that are
life force
but life force not only on a terrestrial way, but life force on an atomic level, even on a
infinite.
Different exactly. The question of finite infinite, it's a question I'm very interested in. I have 3 or 35 something. Now we are again about 35 or 40 podcasts that we have done with Gregory Chaitin. That is very important for you people of computer science and I think things like that. And we had a discussion with Gregory Chaitin that is that you can find on the internet on the concept of infinite and finite, infinite and infinite in philosophy and mathematics. And so I think the question of infinite, we didn't have time to talk about it, but it's very important. Why? Because in fact, again, as I talk about interaction and interrelation, etc., I think there is what I would call the inner infinite, the fact that it's not finite from the inside, that is like it falls inside and it creates this tension from the inside, but in the same time, because the world is materially infinite towards the outside, that explains why it's like the material world is like always on a cliff, so on the verge, it's always on an equilibrium, but on the verge of being disbalanced, and this on the verge of being disbalanced because it's on the verge of something that is else, because it's infinite, and so it has the tendency to go beyond itself because it's infinite, because it goes even more and even more. But the fact that it is taken by the other infinite that goes in the other direction, it's what makes it coherent. So it's just two way of considering infinity.
No, I think this could be the title of another.
Well, I have the different exactly. There is a book that I might publish after we are going to, the discussion we had with Gregory Chaitin will become some kind of a book, and I have a book that I will write that is part of the thing that I'm writing about infinity. It's called, in English I will call it Infinity Off Limit.
So you will have the English version of this book?
I don't know. But because I think the question of limits and infinity are two questions that are related. Like infinity needs limits. Because infinity is non-finite, it has to be taken as a process again. Infinity is not, because when people talk about infinity, they have a tendency of formalizing in their mind infinity as being the reproduction of the same. But infinity is not the reproduction of the same. I mean, it's not fractal. It's not even fractal. Fractal is not infinity. It's the division, it's a formalized division that goes into a high level of complexity, but it's not infinity. Because infinity is like, it's really not finite, and when it falls to the outside, it changes again the shape in an undeterministic way, even if it is in the limit of a certain deterministic.
In fact, in mathematics, we have infinitely many infinites.
Exactly, exactly. So we talk a lot about Cantor, and that, of course, it's reference to Cantor. Yeah.
Of course, can also explain the universe as is in continuous expansion.
Wow. Yes, we'll be talking about that too.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks to you.
I don't know if you all have questions. Otherwise, we can. If you are good, we can continue. If you want.
I have we can go infinitely.
We can go
infinitely. I have many questions that I could carry on asking myself, because I'm not, for me that's the level of hypothesis. But I love hypothesis. I can't help. I mean, trying to find a coherence in.
I think we all have many questions, and we'll be happy to have you again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That'd be
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Well,
Merci
thank you very much.
Eric, merci. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Yeah. Aida, merci beaucoup. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for following us. Thanks, Jalene, who was asking questions. And thank you for following. And please join for the next one. Before we wrap up, I just want to dedicate this session to Haeyoung Kim. She was part of this team. She helped on creating, launching this seminar, and she herself gave a few episodes. And she's focusing now on other projects. So we wish her all the success and the best, and we will follow her work. And voilà, that's that. And merci beaucoup.
Et merci à toi.
Merci à toi, merci d'être venu. It was
Thank
a
you.
really interesting discussion. I hope you enjoyed it all, and see you in the next one. Anyway, follow us on our social network. You will be aware about what's coming next. Ciao.
Bye.